Well, a few hard acts to follow there. I do know I'm the only woman, so perhaps that'll bring something different. So work with me here. Who in this room, and I'm sure there are some of you, so don't be shy, has had an idea that maybe they've had for years and years and years, and they've been thinking, I think I could do something with that, or how come somebody else hasn't done something with that? So is there anyone in the room who's had an idea? Yep, over there, we'll talk later. Good, great, masses of you in the room. Well, I was thinking about how it is that certain ideas and certain thoughts, when they're in the hands of certain people or certain businesses, actually move from being an idea to actually being something that's real, a service or a product that's actually on the market. And I look back over some businesses and some people who have invented things to look back and see whether I could see some common traits of key factors that I know have been important in me building my business from scratch to where it is now. And one person that I looked at is Alexander Graham Bell. He invented the telephone. Very useful. We're all using it all the time. Now, what was it about him that meant that we actually have a phone today? Why didn't he just sit back and think, I've got this great idea, but I'm not going to do anything with it? Now, the fact remains with him, it came down to two main things: knowledge. His background was music, and he understood how your tone of voice could move down cables and could end up transferring to somebody else. The other thing was somebody else was just about to patent the product, and they arrived at the patent office within an hour of each other, and he won it. So he had a bit of pressure behind him. But so when I've been thinking about these things, I want to share with you three key factors that have been absolutely essential in building my business and helping me realise the goal that I had of building a successful business that offered practical parenting solutions to parents out there. And the first of those, and we've heard a bit about it already, is change. If you want something different to happen, you have to do something different. It sounds so obvious, but how often have you had friends or family coming to you maybe with problems, and they're saying, oh, it's just terrible, I'm just not getting anywhere, my job's absolutely horrendous, I can't do... Are they doing anything different, or are they doing the same thing? And the change that I made was to leave my city job. I was in the city for 15 years, one of the best-known advertising lawyers. I had built a good career. I actually loved it. It was great. And when I started that career, I didn't even know that I would end up needing the things that I now make. So it sort of happens sometimes over time. And for me, what happened was I had the first sort of catalyst, which was I had the first of my two children. Now I went back to work, diligently going back. I hadn't changed anything by this point. I'm still going to work. And I was going to take my daughter on holiday with me. And I thought, that's fantastic. She's going to come with us. She's going to share our room. She's going to be in a cot over here, and I'm going to be over here. And if it's sort of lunchtime, sleep time, parents in the room, you'll know what I mean. If they don't get their sleep, they're not going to eat. No one's going to be happy. So I thought they could have a lunchtime sleep. And when it's time to go to bed, I don't necessarily want to be feeling my way around the room in the dark. So I know what I need. I just need one of those things that you put over a cot. It'll give her darkness in her cot, and we can still have the light on. And I know I can buy this. Yeah, I know what it is. I need a cot canopy. Googled it. You can buy everything, can't you, for everybody? Google, couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. Couldn't believe you couldn't find it. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. Everybody I know is rigging up blackout blinds everywhere. Why do that when you can have a personal solution? Well, I sketched it down on a piece of paper, and I showed it to my assistant in the room, and she said, oh, that's brilliant. You've got to go and do that. Fantastic. Bear in mind, she was 5 years younger than me. She'd never had anything to do with children. I wasn't about to hightail it out the office at that point on the basis of her encouragement. But it stuck with me. The concept stuck with me. And over time, I would ask other people, what do you think? Something personal? I didn't want to give them too much information. Bearing in mind, I'm a lawyer. You don't want somebody going off with your idea. But I could feel that there was some momentum there. But it wasn't until I had my second child when I met a key influencer. And she happened to be one of the UK's best-known midwives. She's a midwife for Philips Avent, total expert in sleep, babies, sleep patterns, doctor, all the rest of it. And that started to lend some credibility and gravitas to the idea. So now it wasn't just what I thought was a good idea or a few other people thought was a good idea. This is something that the profession was saying, this is a really good idea. You need to do this. And by this point, I had evaluated the market, and I felt that the opportunity was big enough to worth being the risk of leaving my job. So I left my job, and that was actually quite a scary moment, Couple of reasons. Firstly, I had no income, and the thought of some impending poverty makes you work really hard. So I knew I had to carry on and just crack on. The other thing was, and this was even more frightening, I realised that I had an enormous gap of knowledge. I knew nothing about manufacturing, marketing or retail, which is slightly problematic when you want to manufacture, market and retail your product. So I realised I had to go out there and I needed to build a knowledge base. And I needed to surround myself with people who know more than me. And listen, everybody by that point knew more than me. And I went out there, but the problem was I didn't even know any people who were in marketing, manufacturing or retail. I knew a lot of lawyers. I can see you're all jealous there. But I didn't know where to start. Now, this leads me to the second factor. So I've made a change. I've got no job. I've got an idea. And I needed to find these people. How did I do it? And that factor is tenacity. I followed, I begged, I pleaded pretty much anybody I met to say, do you know someone who knows about this? Does anyone know anything about this? And I surrounded myself with people who had that knowledge base. Because without that knowledge, for example, Alexander Graham Bell, without his knowledge about the music thing, and me with some knowledge about how to get things manufactured, there would have been some issues. Now, at this point, I had managed to create a prototype. So I had the knowledge, I'd made the change, and I made a prototype of my cot canopy. I wasn't quite brave enough to buy the thousands that I would have to buy to go into production, but I was brave enough to take a sample to a trade show. I thought, I've got to be really tough with myself. Even though some buyers had said quite nice things, any of you who know buyers, they're quite fierce, I thought, I'm going to take it to a show, and I'm going to put it on my stand, and I'm going to make sure that I see what happens when these buyers are faced with all kinds of other good stuff that they could be buying. So off I went, and I went to a show, Baby Products Association. I set up my stand, and I had my cot canopy thing here, and everyone else looked really confident, and I was extremely scared, didn't know what I was doing. Having said that, the other issue was this cot canopy. Remember, I've told you that actually it wasn't the real thing, it was a sample. There's a clamp that attaches to the cot itself. Now, because this wasn't a production model, it was made of papier-mâché, pretty much. Papier-mâché, quite hard, but papier-mâché. And so I stood there on that first day, and a whole load of buyers came marching down towards me. And they work in packs, you see, because it makes them feel confident. You know how it is, if you feel confident when you're with other people. And they came towards me, and they elbowed me out of the way, physically. So I was pushed away from my stuff, and there they were, pulling on it and zipping and all the rest of it. And it didn't break, but that's what I thought was about to happen. And it was at that point, after they had had a good go at it, they looked at me and they said, why? Tell me about this. And the third factor came in, passion. You have to be so passionate about your brand that it's infectious. It's infectious on the buyers, it's infectious on them talking about it to their customers, the customers talk to everyone else about it. Passion is absolutely key. I gave them the passion. And at my very first trade show, on my very first day, the very first visitors to my stand took my very first product. And that was Mothercare, that team, that scary lot. So I now had a product on the market. Other ideas were in my head. And it was at this point that I was phoned by the production team of a program called Dragon's Den. Some of you might have seen that. Now, does anyone here remember a time when they were faced with a really difficult boss? Or quite a nasty teacher, or a very irate parent. So you've got 5 of them, all at once, in front of you. And they're vying for who can look the most scary as well. So it's not just about them being scary. And I ended up in front of them, having said when they first phoned me, I'm never going on Dragon's Den, never going to do it. And for those of you who put your hand up before with your ideas, if you've vocalised those ideas to family and friends, probably much like me, people used to say to me, oh, you should go on Dragon's Den, be brilliant, you'd love it. I said, I'm never going to do it. It's never going to happen. Why would I risk my business? So I said that to the person on the phone, I'm not coming on. And my PR people, remember I've surrounded myself with people who know more than me, they said, Solvej, you've missed a trick here. You'd actually be quite good on Dragon's Den. I said, well, I'm not going on my cot canopy, not doing it. I said, I'll take my new product, Tray Kit. And I ended up in front of these dragons. And the long and the short of it is they absolutely loved it. They loved the products, they loved the brand. But why did they love it? I had made a change. I had committed to my brand and to my products. I had been tenacious. I had already opened doors. The doors were open. They got open wider. And the third one was I showed my passion. And they believed in the products. So what I would say to you is, if you've got an idea, grab it, make some sort of change so you've got time to do it, be tenacious, because those doors can be hard to open, and throw in a whole lot of passion, and you can do it too.